All right, so today we're going deep on some pretty fundamental concepts in ASP.NET Core.
Yeah, definitely fundamental. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, ASP.NET Core is super robust, really powerful framework, but leans hard on some pretty important programming ideas.
Absolutely. We're talking dependency injection, abstraction, encapsulation,
Hmm.
all those good things.
Right, right, and how they all kind of work together with this thing called an IOC container.
Yeah, that IOC container, it's like the heart of it all.
So think of this deep dive as your like crash course on all of that. We're going to try to decode the magic behind building really efficient web apps. We're working from this document that lays out all these core concepts within ASP.NET Core. Should be interesting.
Yeah, these concepts are like, they're not just specific to ASP.NET Core, though, right? I mean, they're everywhere in object-oriented programming.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But we're going to see them, in action, specifically in ASP.NET Core. So
Mhm.
maybe a good place to start is dependency injection. DI. Okay. So the document actually uses this Lego analogy to explain it. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, the Lego analogy, that's a classic.
Yeah. So imagine you're, building with Legos, but instead of snapping the pieces directly together, you've got these like special connectors.
Right, like adapters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
adapters, and they let you swap out parts easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. It's like, think about how annoying it would be if Legos, like, you could only connect them one way, right? You'd be
You
stuck.
don't just have like one thing you could build.
Exactly. You couldn't really, modify your creations or extend them easily.
Right, right. You can get creative. So DI is all about like giving your code that same kind of flexibility, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's about making your code modular, adaptable, like you said.
Okay, so it's more than just like snapping Legos together.
Way more.
Then,
Way.
so what's the bigger picture? Why is this so important for ASP.NET Core?
Okay, so the big deal with DI is that it helps us avoid something called tight coupling
Tight coupling.
between classes. So instead of classes like being totally dependent on specific other classes, they depend on these connectors, these interfaces, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So that makes your code way easier to maintain,
Right.
way easier to test and to modify. And that's huge, especially in a framework like ASP.NET Core, where you have so many moving parts.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like if you could swap out the engine in a Lego car for a different one
Mhm.
without having to rebuild the whole car.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
But how does this actually, like, how does this work in the code? Give me an example of how you actually do this.
Okay, sure. So in code, imagine you're like ordering a cake, right?
Uh,
Instead of saying, I need this much flour, this much sugar, do it this way, bake it this long.
Right, the exact recipe.
Yeah, you just say, hey, I need a cake. Make it chocolate.
Right, you just want the outcome.
Yeah, you just need a delicious cake.
Right.
You're giving the baker the freedom to choose the best way to make it, the best ingredients, but you still get what you need in the end.
Right. That actually makes a lot of sense. It makes me think, when was the last time you actually had to worry about how the circuits in your phone worked?
Never.
Probably never. Right. And that's kind of the beauty of abstraction, right?
Yeah.
We get to use these really complex systems without needing to understand every little detail.
Right, yeah. Abstraction is all about hiding the complexity, giving you this nice, simplified view of things.
Right. It's focusing on what a component does, not how it does it.
Exactly. That's the key. And this makes systems easier to use, obviously, but it also makes your code way more organized, right?
Yeah, okay.
And it makes it easier for developers to work together because we don't need to be like bogged down in all the nitty-gritty details all the time.
Got it. So we've got flexible components, we've got simplified views, and then this document brings up encapsulation, which sounds like it's all about protecting things.
Yeah, encapsulation's like, it's like putting a fence around your code,
Right.
keeping things safe and sound. It basically bundles together the data and the methods that work on that data all inside a class. So it prevents like accidental changes, makes things more predictable.
So it's like you can't just reach in and, mess with the wires in a light bulb. You have to use the switch, you have to use the intended way.
Exactly. It's all about controlled access. Makes your code way more robust, less likely to break unexpectedly.
Okay, so we've got our flexible components, we've got our simplified views, we've got our secure little bundles of code. Now for the big one, the IOC container.
Ah, the IOC container, the maestro of the
The
orchestra.
document describes it as like this master organizer.
Think of it like this. You walk into a restaurant kitchen, right? It's bustling, chefs everywhere, ingredients flying around.
Okay, yeah, I'm picturing it.
And then you've got the head chef, right? The one who's calling the shots, making sure everything runs smoothly. That's the IOC container. It's the one that gathers all the ingredients, your dependencies, and makes sure they're prepped, combined correctly.
So it's not just throwing things together randomly. It's got a plan.
Exactly. It's following the recipe, the instructions you give it in your startup.cs file, which is like the recipe book for your app.
Right, right. That's where you configure everything.
Yep, you tell it how to create all the different parts of your application. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to wire everything together manually. The container does all the heavy lifting for you.
That's pretty amazing. It automates a lot of that tedious work, right? And make sure everything is connected properly. But how does all of this tie into ASP.NET Core specifically? Like, how does the framework use these concepts?
Well, ASP.NET Core is built with these principles in mind.
Yep.
Dependency injection, it's baked right in. It's everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, from controllers to middleware, you'll see DI all over the place.
Mhm.
And the built-in iService collection, that's your IOC container right there, managing the life cycle of your objects, making sure everything's running smoothly.
So it's not just like theoretical. It's actually making ASP.NET Core apps better at a fundamental level.
Oh, absolutely. When all these concepts work together, they lead to cleaner code, easier testing, and overall, a much better application design. Imagine you need to swap out your logging system in a big ASP.NET Core application. Well, with DI, it's as easy as changing the injected dependency. No need to rewrite a ton of code.
Wow. So it's really about making things more manageable in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Or think about testing. You can easily inject mock dependencies so you can test individual components without having to set up these complicated scenarios.
Right. So you've essentially unlocked this like deeper understanding of how ASP.NET Core uses these powerful concepts to create these really robust web applications.
It's like seeing the blueprints of a skyscraper, you know? Suddenly you understand how all the pieces fit together to create this amazing structure.
That's a great analogy. And for our listeners out there, think about this. How could dependency injection change the way you approach your own coding projects?
Yeah, exactly. Think about it.
Even beyond web development, right?
Yeah.
Could your code be more flexible, more maintainable, more testable if you use DI? That's something to ponder as you continue on your coding journey.
Food for thought, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's really powerful stuff.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time.
See you, baby.